And welcome back, everyone, to One on One with Nate and Aziz, hashtag Triple O Show.
Z, what's up, bro?
You know, the All Star stuff just came out yesterday, and
Oh, yeah.
we're here in Atlanta, Super Bowl's next weekend, but the Patriots are in it, so I don't care. So we're looking forward to, the NBA.
Towards brighter pastures.
Right. So.
Yeah, how'd you feel about those starters being announced? Any surprises?
No surprises, really. I think the only thing I didn't have a problem with it, but the only thing I might have changed was Kemba Walker, maybe
Really?
Bradley Beal, or
Okay.
yourself, Ben Simmons.
Hey,
But
I'm
I mean,
not
Kemba
confident.
absolutely deserves
Yeah,
it. But
he's I guess a lot of folks have considered him a snub, not being a starter for the past couple seasons, which is a tough call to make, but I'm glad for him. I'll give it to him this year.
yeah, he's definitely had a great season, and being in Charlotte and their misfortunes, we'll call them. Although I do like Malik Monk and Miles Bridges off the bench, but
Yeah, Malik Monk has actually come along pretty nicely. Bridges we expected, I think, to be that instant spark plug with Malik. He's looking pretty good, man.
For sure. So we're across the halfway point of the season, and as far as expectations, we can start with the Eastern Conference. What have you seen so far?
I don't think my expectations have changed too much up to this point. I think we were, talking a little bit earlier about how Indiana was sitting at the third spot right now is, a nice surprise to see them have made so much progress. But with Oladipo going down like that, I see them slipping pretty quickly.
Prayers up to Oladipo.
Seriously, man.
You never want to see anybody get hurt, especially the season that Indiana was having.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's become kind of their fearless leader. Sabonis, he's also having a great season off the bench. And they were just seemingly well-rounded and ready to go. So it's going to be a big blow for them, but, we'll see if teams like Boston, Philly kind of sneak a little bit closer to that top spot in the East.
Do you think Indiana can hold, because we obviously know they're not going to be a top 4 team anymore. Do you think they can hold on to being a playoff team with the lower echelon?
I would say so, yes. Just because that team is pretty rugged. Oladipo is their go-to guy, but they seemingly have a lot of players that will just fight back. So, it's all a matter of what their coach is going to work with now, how he's going to work those rotations in. I don't know.
Tyreek Evans, I'm looking at you.
Yeah, he'll step up, and like you said, he needs to have the ball more now.
Right, because he cannot play anywhere but point guard. So I love Tyreek Evans, though. So
yeah, what do you think with Milwaukee and Toronto just sitting at the top? Are they?
Oh man, I feel like
to bounce back. Could somebody knock them off?
The way it's looking right now, I don't know. I feel like both of those teams, and maybe because they're in smaller markets, that they're not getting the coverage they deserve because they're 1 and 2 in the NBA right now, I believe. And especially Milwaukee, it just seems like they finally found a system that fits the players that they have. And we're getting the Giannis that we've been hoping for over the last 2 years.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's really only getting talked about for, his individual performance. But like you said, his impact to the team, even just being more aggressive, has really widened things up. I was looking at his stats from last year, and he's literally up in every single stat line other than
scary good.
His three-point percentage. But, if he continues on this kind of growth spurt, I don't know about you, I don't see there being a clear end in terms of his progress.
Right. It just seems like his there's no ceiling for him.
Yeah, I've always loved guys like Bledsoe. We're talking about Lopez, who has just proved to be, consistent from the three-point line.
Oh man, Splash Mountain.
Seriously, I have no idea where that's coming from, but it's been much needed for him. So
I was looking at some of his stats for Brook Lopez. His first 8 years in the NBA, he attempted 21 threes and made 3.
Oh man.
This year, he's 116 for 304 at 38%.
Yeah, that's crazy.
He totally reinvented his game.
Right. Him and, I don't know, Kyle Korver been working out together. But
clearly.
yeah, it's looking pretty good. So
You think LA could use him right now? We'll save that for another time.
Yeah, I would definitely.
Speaking of the 3-point shot, though, I think that's one of the things that's interesting. Just looking at Giannis, I think I was looking at his last 5 game stats, and he's averaging 26 points, 11 rebounds, 5.5 assists on 55% shooting, which, for the amount of dunks that he gets in the lane, that's pretty expected. But he's shooting 33% from the 3, which isn't great, but you at least have to admire that he's taking those shots, because we're having that issue right now, or been having that issue with a guy like Ben Simmons, where he's just not taking it at all. Where with Giannis, it's not where it's at. He's never going to be, a Clay, Steph, or probably a consistent knockdown shooter. But the fact that he's at least taking the shot is showing that he's willing to take that step to expand his game.
Man, you can only make a shot if you take a shot.
Right.
And practice makes perfect. So, like you said, if you're conditioning yourself to kind of be afraid of certain aspects of the game, you're only setting your ceiling low.
For sure.
Yeah, but Giannis, he's going to continue to do what he's been doing. We were talking about Toronto as well, kind of just hanging on the threshold of, could be, kind of the champion contenders right now. We've talked about guys like, Siakam coming along, really adding that extra value to the team.
Most improved this year?
I could see it. We were talking about him early on in the year, and he definitely deserves some recognition there. He's even, finishing some close games for him. So, with Lowry, I know you're a Lowry hater.
Not quite. It's the playoff Lowry. I think that's the problem that we have.
He falls to the wayside. They have, I don't know, a real air of confidence this year that I really like.
The cohesiveness of that team is just, it overcomes, not that they're not talented, but of course they're not as talented as a team like a Boston or Golden State, but the chemistry that they have together might be one of the best in the NBA.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I don't want to say that they've taken, any of Popovich's system, but there's certainly elements of that pass first mentality, high screens. So I'm really liking to watch them play.
And also, just last week, sneaky good pickup. They have Patrick McCaw now.
Right. Yeah.
Which I don't know.
Confusing deal.
I don't know how that happened, but
yeah, that's gonna be a nice addition for them off the bench, man.
It's
been a while since he's played some decent minutes of basketball, though.
They've got so many players, though, that you're only looking for maybe a good 5 to 12 minutes out of him. And then that's the one issue I do kind of have with Toronto's, as much as the amount of times that they sent Kawhi Leonard. Like, I get it. He's kind of coming off of an injury, even though he didn't play off last year, but
maybe they really want to work that full rotation, man. They, because will be stretches, and hey, I'm not gonna, knock on wood, say there's a contingency that he could ever go down at some point, but you do always want to have these guys prepared.
I agree, because I like the fact that you're getting 10 to 11 guys, at least experience on the court, because we know Tom Thibodeau only believes in about playing 6 or 7 guys. So anytime that you're at least developing your younger players or end of your bench to see what you have, because that's how I feel about when you get to the playoffs. It's not necessarily about having a solid 10 players that you're going to play. You just need, if Lowry goes down, do we have a guy that can win one game for us or contribute one game? Because you know what you're going to get out of your stars. They should at least be able to get you 2 games.
Yeah.
So
same thing for foul trouble. I mean, if I need to bring a guy in, later half of the third quarter, just give me some solid defense. I know McCaw was a pretty good two-way player.
Yeah.
So hopefully he can bring that right back to their team.
So yeah, I am a firm believer in paying players. But what do I know? Just the analyst. But yeah, Raptors been super good.
Yeah, you think we've been talking about D'Angelo too. Brooklyn's now sitting at the 6th spot. How you feel about his play? Is it enough to kind of elevate them past Philly and Boston?
I don't think so. I think they're right behind them, and not so much in the sense of talent. Like, they could take that step, but just as far as you have your levels of teams in the conference and the way that the NBA is now. You got your superstar teams, and especially Eastern Conference, and you got everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
So, you got your Boston, Toronto, Philly, did have Indiana, but, they're obviously, we think they're going to slip. So I think of those teams that are, left, the Detroits, the
Right.
Miamis, Orlando's
in there.
and Charlotte's, that
Right. Mm-hmm.
because that's the one thing I like about the Brooklyn Nets is that they always play hard. They might not have as much talent as other teams, but effort can take you a long way.
Oh, yeah.
You're an NBA player. Everybody's talented to an extent. So some nights it's really just going to come down to who's playing hard, and they always play hard. I mean, look at Jared Allen blocking everybody's
Seriously,
shots.
man, their young core, especially with LeVert, once he comes back, Dinwiddie, I like it, I like that over the next few years, but, again, they're going to need some sort of veteran presence or some just, major acquisition.
Which I believe, I think they do have 2 max slots that they'll be able to offer some free agents. So you never know what happens, but having your core players and your young players play well is the first step to that, because that's what you've seen with LA.
Right.
Even though they didn't have a great record last year or the year before that, you saw young guys that had potential, and that's probably the only way you get LeBron to go somewhere like that where he has hope. It's like, okay, I've seen what these guys can do or have potential to do. I might be that missing piece that they need. So,
yeah, it's a multifaceted, complex issue when it comes to getting these guys on the floor. But like you said, everyone's watching. So players included. If you want to convince some guys to come, get your young guys on the floor.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of LA, man, what do you think about them holding up during this LeBron absence? It's been an up and down battle for him.
So I was watching the Lakers Timberwolves game last night, and I think the consensus now for everyone is that Brandon Ingram just doesn't fit on that team. And watching him and Andrew Wiggins guard each other was just like,
Wiggins
is he
was
fault?
getting some.
Oh yeah, but we know like Wiggins has a tendency to show these flashes, but there's the consistency, and then there's sometimes he seems like he has a lethargic game where he's just out there. And I partially blame the Timberwolves for that, because you did the reverse of what you do when you try to motivate somebody. You gave him the money and said, all right, now we need you to play harder, as opposed to you play harder this year and then we'll give you the money. But so watching the game last night, I'm wondering to myself, is Brandon Ingram falling into that category of Andrew Wiggins, where we feel like he should be better than he is, and we know that he has the talent to do so, but for whatever reasons, he's not living up to that potential.
Right. He may have someone's given him too much value. I don't know. He just strikes me as one of those guys that will never be a number one, for example. And when you look at players who play next to LeBron, at least at the caliber that they expect you to play, you really do need to be another number one. You could lead the team if he wasn't there. And everyone thought that he was that guy last year just because he was the most talented. But to your point, really, there's some other guys on that team just that fit into the LeBron mold a lot better, like Kuz, Lonzo, Zubac.
Yeah.
Guys that are just filling roles. And for him to be kind of that, go-to right-hand man, I don't know if he's ready for that even at this stage. I think he's got to be put in a prolonged position to be kind of just given that key to the city.
Yeah.
I don't really see it happen. Now, we were talking about Kuzma, man. He's got the keys. He's ready to go with this. And for a player like him who isn't as demanding, I'd say, doesn't need to work in isolation as long, or can move pretty well. I see him as potentially being their star.
Their go-to,
under the radar.
I think, well, we got to remember this as well, that Brandon Ingram's only 21 years old. And I think having LeBron come to this team, it accelerates the timetable for all of your young players and their development to the point where there is no development. It's we need you to be good, and we need you to be good now, because despite what they say, LeBron's on a 4-year contract, not necessarily saying we're looking toward, oh, he's going to leave in 4 years, but you want to get the most out of the 4 years that you have him because he's only getting older every year. So having Brandon Ingram at 21, still trying to figure out where he is or what kind of player he is, especially aside next to LeBron, it's a lot of expectations.
It is, man. I think that's why people were so adamant on potentially getting Beal over there, because he seemingly does already understand what his role is, the type of player he is.
Agreed.
And just adds immediate value that doesn't take much time to figure out, I guess. So, yeah, I'm not going to say that Ingram can't be very successful elsewhere, but it just may not be in the cards for him in L.A.
Yeah.
I will say, though, that I can definitely see the absence of Lonzo causing a kind of a disruption in their offense. Just having random guys play point guard in stretches, and with Rondo just getting back, hopefully he can figure that out. But when is LeBron coming back?
I think they were saying he's probable for this weekend, but more likely to return Monday or Tuesday, whenever their next game is. So hopefully we'll see them soon, because they're slipping behind in the playoff race. Of course, they're gonna make the playoffs. We know that. But as far as seeding, the way it looks now, you're looking at a 7 or 8.
7th or 8th, yeah. And they're gonna be facing another guy coming back from injury, Big Boogie.
Oh man.
What you been thinking about that, man? It's been pretty interesting to see.
It's just unfair, man. I was watching the first game back against the Clippers, and he was grabbing rebounds, bringing the ball up the floor. He hit some threes.
And he doesn't even seem to have his full step back.
Right. He's only... Let me go to my notes real quick. So, Demarcus Cousins, in very limited minutes, 18 minutes per game. I think he's only played 2 or 3 games so far, but in 18 minutes, in 2-3 games, he's averaging 11 points and 7.5 rebounds. That's like career numbers for a guy like Dwayne Dedman and Marcin Gortz. So to have this guy who's playing not even a half of basketball to come in and have that kind of production, it just seems like,
that's why he's at the top.
Yeah, whatever rumors there was about them having issues fitting in, like, we can go ahead and put those to rest.
And to that point, I mean, he's, I know he doesn't understand their full offense yet. I'm sure he's had some really good time to be, working out with the team and just getting back into that fold. But there were 3 or 4 plays that he ran that just looked seamless. Easy handoffs for a dunk or outlet 3. So it's really nice to see another add-on like him who, he's just showed us every year he's a lot more dynamic than people ever originally gave him credit for.
I think he knows he has a lot to prove this year, especially in this situation, because if he wants to, this was supposed to be the big contract year for him, but New Orleans didn't want to sign him back after that injury. So if he wants to get paid, he's going to have to show out this year, which
It's looking good so far.
Yeah, see no reason why. And just talk about the other guys over the last 5 games. Steph, 31 points, 5.5 assists, 5 rebounds, 49% from the floor, 47 from 3, and 100% from the free throw line. Like,
dang, I didn't even see that. That's crazy.
He hasn't missed a free throw in 6 games or 5
crazy,
games, so
man.
that's ridiculous.
He did bust his ass, but man, that is crazy.
And then you've got Clay, he's 24 points, 55.7% from the field, 50% from 3 on 8 attempts a game. And so it seems like the shooting slump is over.
Yeah. I think the Splash Bros are just fine. I mean, you got him and, Steph and KD, I think, are top 5 in the league in scoring. So that's just, I'm sure Clay and a couple other guys might not be too much further down.
Right. Durant's numbers over those last couple games, 25.8, 54%. 54.7% from the floor, and 50 from three. So you basically got three guys
That's
on your team
ridiculous, bro.
shooting 30%, and they're all taking. So Durant's taking 6 threes a game, Klay's taking 8 threes a game, and Steph is taking 14 a game. So that's 7, 10, 14 threes right there, just off the bat, and then you're not adding in guys. Draymond might hit one or two. Iguodala, like, how do you compete with that?
I have no idea, man. Yeah, it's weird to because I think we were talking, what, 2-3 months ago that Golden State was done, or is this the end of everything for them?
Right.
Look, basketball is basketball, man. Once you get back to business, things tend to work out. So I don't know how teams are really going to prepare for that this season, but teams have been trying to prepare for James Harden every game, and he's still dropping 50, 60 points.
Right.
So,
who do you have as the biggest threat to the Warriors?
Biggest threat to the Warriors. I don't know, man. Look, I've watched OKC a lot closer this year, and it's really just fascinating to me. Not only what Paul George is doing, because he's just having a tremendous year.
Yes.
It's a few other guys. Obviously Westbrook is just doing what he's doing.
Yeah, Westbrook's Westbrook.
Right. I don't know. I'm seeing guys like Steven Adams and Jeremy Grant just make some different plays this year that I'm gonna see needing to be made in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Plays that weren't made, these past few seasons. And that's what's exciting. I can't say that that's gonna translate to beating a team like Golden State, because OKC is still flippy floppy to me.
Yeah. Some nights they don't show up.
Right, and Paul George is not necessarily a laid back guy, but he can occasionally just disappear. I don't know. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt that they're gonna be the one team that most teams don't want to play. Come, I'd say second round, first round, they're taking whoever they got, but teams aren't gonna want to play them for an extended series.
I agree as well. I was watching that Warriors-Clippers game. The first team that came to mind for me was Toronto, just because of the cohesiveness and the amount of depth that they have. But the issue for me is that who do you have that can neutralize Demarcus? Valanciunas isn't going to be that guy. Greg Monroe's not going to be that guy. You could try to run small ball, but then you're probably going to end up with a Siakam or Kawhi on Demarcus. So I think that's really the thing that's going to prohibit them in that kind of series. But so then when I started thinking about it as well, I thought OKC is obviously, I'm a Thunder fan, but watching their games this year, when they're on, the thing that really is the difference from this year to last year, aside from Carmelo not being there, the defense is just overwhelming. I believe Russ and Paul George are both like top 5 or top 10 in steals, but it's just there's so much length on the floor, and then especially if you get a guy back like Andre Roberson.
Right.
I think that the matchups across the board, you're never going to have any team that's going to evenly match with Golden State, but just from an offensive defensive perspective, I think they match up pretty well. Yeah. Steven Adams can hold his own against Demarcus.
Yeah, he's a big guy. Steph and Westbrook is going to be they might neutralize each other.
Right.
I don't, Billy Donovan, I just don't know what happens to him in the playoffs too, I guess, and I don't want to blame him.
Yeah.
But OKC also does tend to disappoint me in the playoffs. Occasionally, and they're still dreaming about that walk back 3 that Steph hit over Robertson. But if we're looking at Toronto, we're looking at I was gonna give Milwaukee a quick little tease that they could make it to the conference finals. I don't know about that.
I think they have a chance to make it to the conference finals, but I would pick Yeah, Boston, Toronto. I might even pick Philly.
Yeah,
just
what
because
about
I feel
Philly?
like last year for Philly was the year where
They
it's
were
like,
right there.
okay, now we know what the playoffs is like. And like I said, we're seeing a different Ben Simmons this year, and especially Jimmy Butler. I think all these teams having more top tier guys than Milwaukee, I'd take them in the playoffs. So
Yeah. Overall, I think we're gonna see a elevated level of play this year in the postseason. I'm glad to see Houston kind of bouncing back a little bit. I thought they'd be on a deeper slide or a longer slide, but everyone's seeming to come back together. And Fareed, he's he's okay.
right,
He's just another add-on, but
right for now. All right.
Well,
Well, we're gonna
stay posted. Yeah. No, go ahead, man.
No, I was just gonna say we're gonna take a little break because when we come back, we're gonna need to talk about Houston and this little run James Harden's been on. So stick around.
Scary.